Good morning, dear children. Welcome back to this video session where we are discussing the chapter Measures of Dispersion. We have discussed the various measures such as range, quartile deviation, mean deviation, and the next we have to discuss is about the standard deviation. The concept of standard deviation was first introduced by Carl Pearson in 1893. It is the most useful and the most popular measures of dispersion. Just as the arithmetic mean is the most popular of all the averages, the standard deviation is the best of all the measures of dispersion. So while teaching these measures of averages, I have explained the importance of studying the arithmetic mean and why it is the popular measure of the averages I have explained. So here in these measures of dispersion, this standard deviation is also that much significant in this lesson. It is the best of all measures of dispersion. The reason is the quartile deviation takes into account only 50% of the item and ignores the other 50% of the item in the series. I told you about the quartile deviation and the different quartiles in that. So children, think about that. That is, only the 50% of the items are only taken into consideration while calculating the measures of dispersion. There they have ignored the half of the items in the series. Mean deviation, no doubt, it is an improved measure but ignores the negative signs without any basis. There, in this mean deviation, only the positive values are taken. What all the negative values we have to convert into positive values, and they have ignored the negative signs significance. So Carl Pearson, after observing all these things, has given us a more scientific formula for calculating or measuring the dispersion. While calculating the standard deviation, we take the deviations of the individual observations from their arithmetic mean, and then we have to square the each deviations. The sum of the squares is divided by the number of observations. The square root of this sum is known as the standard deviation. So that's why the standard deviation is considered as the most popular measure while calculating this dispersions, because it takes into account the deviations from the individual observations from their arithmetic mean, and then we are squaring each of the items, and the sum of the squares we have to divide by the number of observations, and at last the square root of the sum is known as the standard deviation. So that is the standard deviation, why it is considered as the most popular measure of dispersion. The next one, what are all the merits of standard deviation? It's a very popular scientific measure of dispersion. And from the standard deviation, we can measure the skewness, correlation, etc. And it considers all items of the series. The squares of the deviations make them positive, and the difficulty about the algebraic signs, which was expressed in the case of mean deviation, is not found here. That is the merits of standard deviation. And what are the demerits of standard deviation? The calculation is difficult, not as easier as range and quartile deviation. Here the calculation is little complicated one. It always depends on arithmetic mean. It cannot be calculated for qualitative data. Children, you have studied about the two data, what is quantitative and what is qualitative. So here the standard deviation is not helpful to calculate the qualitative data. Qualitative data means those data which takes into account the attributes, means the qualities, the different qualities that I told you about the, yes, what are the qualities. So here it is not used for the qualitative data. The standard deviation cannot be used for the qualitative data. So children, this is about the standard deviation, and it is the most popular measure of dispersion, and I have mentioned the reason why it is become the most popular measure of dispersion. So children, I hope this session related to the explanation of the standard deviation is clear for you. So thank you children for watching this video.